She stood at the edge of my fence, pointed at my barn, and said 5 words I'll never forget. "This farm is illegal now." I almost laughed. 3 days later, the county commissioner pulled into my driveway with a folder so thick it took both hands to carry. By sunset, someone else's future, not mine, was about to collapse. If you love HOA stories, HOA revenge, and satisfying homeowner victories where power trips backfire, subscribe now, because today's story proves that confidence means nothing when the facts finally show up. The morning started like every other. The sun rose over my family's farm just outside Cedar Ridge. My grandfather planted the first cornfield here in 1958. My father expanded the barns. I simply kept the tradition alive. Nothing about this land was new. Nothing about it was controversial. Until Cedar Ridge Estates opened across the county road 2 years ago. At first, the new neighbors waved whenever I drove my tractor past. Then the complaints started. Too much tractor noise. Too much dust. Too many farm smells. Then came Karen Holloway. She introduced herself as president of the Homeowners Association before she even told me her first name. "I hope you're planning some changes," she said, smiling politely. I asked what she meant. She pointed toward my grain silos. "That farm doesn't match the image our community is trying to create." I chuckled. My farm was here long before the community. She didn't smile anymore. "You'll see." A week later, a certified envelope appeared in my mailbox. Across the top, in bold letters, it read, "Notice of non-compliant property." According to Karen, my entire farm was now considered an unauthorized agricultural operation affecting neighborhood standards. She demanded I remove equipment, repaint every barn, relocate my livestock, and stop operating heavy machinery during daylight hours. Then came the final sentence. "Failure to comply may result in additional action." I stared at the page for several seconds. Not because I believed it. Because I couldn't believe someone had actually written it. Then my phone rang. It wasn't my lawyer. It wasn't a neighbor. It was someone from the county offices. And the first thing they asked made me realize this story was about to become much bigger than Karen ever expected. Karen thought the county would support her. Instead, the county wanted to know why they had received documents using their name that they had never issued. The next morning, I drove to the county administration building carrying Karen's notice in a worn leather folder. At the reception desk, a clerk read the first page and frowned. "I've never seen this format before." She disappeared into a back office. 10 minutes later, she returned with someone wearing a county identification badge. He introduced himself as Michael Dawson, Assistant County Commissioner. He didn't ask about my farm. He asked one question. "Where exactly did you get this letter?" I slid the envelope across the table. He studied every page carefully. Then he pointed to the county seal printed in the upper corner. "That isn't our official seal." My stomach tightened. "What does that mean?" "It means someone copied a government design without authorization." He continued reading. The document repeatedly referred to county agricultural compliance requirements. Michael shook his head. "We don't have a department by that name." He looked up at me. "Has anyone from the county ever visited your farm?" "No." "Have you received any official notice from us?" "Never." He nodded slowly. "I think we'd better see this property ourselves." 2 days later, a white county SUV rolled into my driveway. Michael stepped out with a planning officer, a zoning specialist, and a survey technician carrying rolled map. Karen saw them arrive from across the road. Within minutes, she hurried over wearing her white HOA polo and carrying a thick binder. She smiled confidently. "I'm so glad the county is finally taking action." Michael politely accepted her handshake. Then he asked a question that instantly erased her smile. "Mrs. Holloway, could you explain why this document uses an altered version of the county seal?" Karen froze. It was only meant to look official." The planning officer quietly exchanged a glance with Michael. No one spoke for several long seconds. Then the survey technician unfolded a massive county map across the hood of the SUV. What that map revealed would completely change the direction of the entire dispute. Karen believed the map would prove she was right. Instead, it became the one thing she wished no one had ever unfolded. The survey technician carefully spread the oversized county map across the hood of the white SUV. Everyone gathered around. Bright-colored boundary lines stretched across the paper. Roads, property lines, agricultural zones, subdivision limits. Michael Dawson traced one blue line with his finger. This is Cedar Ridge Estates. He slid his hand several inches farther across the map. And this, he tapped my property, is Carter Family Farm. Karen leaned closer. But they're right next to each other. Yes, Michael replied calmly. Next to each other. He paused. Not the same. The zoning specialist pulled out another document. It showed my farm had been officially registered as protected agricultural land for more than 60 years. Karen frowned. That doesn't matter. Our homeowners voted to improve the area. Michael looked at her. An HOA can create rules for its own neighborhood. He pointed toward my fields. It cannot rewrite county zoning. Karen quickly opened her binder. We've received dozens of complaints. Michael accepted the papers. He quietly flipped through every page. Then he looked back at her. These are opinion surveys. They're not county records. Karen's confidence began slipping away. But homeowners deserve better views. The survey technician smiled politely. The sales brochure for your subdivision advertised beautiful country farmland as one of its biggest attractions. Karen blinked. What? He reached into another folder. Inside was the original marketing brochure used to sell homes. Across the front was a large photograph of my red barn, my grain silos, and my cornfields glowing beneath the sunset. Michael held it beside Karen's complaint letter. So buyers were encouraged to purchase homes because of this farm. He looked directly at her. And now you're asking us to declare the same farm unacceptable? No one spoke. Even several homeowners standing nearby quietly lowered their heads. Karen searched through her binder, desperately looking for another argument. Instead, one loose page slipped onto the ground. Michael picked it up. It wasn't another complaint. It was an internal HOA meeting note. He read one sentence silently. Then his expression changed completely. Without saying a word, he folded the page and placed it inside his own folder. He looked at Karen. I think we need to continue this discussion at the county offices. Karen suddenly wasn't smiling anymore. Because whatever Michael had just read, he clearly hadn't expected to find it. Karen thought the county meeting would intimidate me. What she didn't realize was that the paper she dropped had already changed the entire case. The next afternoon, I walked into the county conference room expecting another argument about zoning. Instead, Michael Dawson had my complaint letter, the subdivision brochure, and the page Karen had dropped during the inspection laid out side by side. Karen sat across from me with her attorney for the first time. That alone told me she was worried. Michael opened the folded page. Mrs. Holloway, is this from an HOA board meeting? Karen hesitated. Possibly. He read aloud. If we can pressure the farm into reducing operations, property values in Phase 2 should increase significantly. The room went silent. Then he continued. County enforcement may be persuaded if the farm appears non-compliant. Karen's attorney slowly closed his notebook. Michael looked directly at her. So this was never about safety. It was about forcing changes to a lawful farm. Karen tried to interrupt. You don't understand the context. Michael raised his hand. I understand it very clearly. The zoning specialist then produced another document. My farm had received a protected agricultural operations certificate years earlier under a state right-to-farm program. That certificate didn't just allow normal farming activities. It specifically protected the farm from nuisance claims related to noise, dust, livestock, and equipment operations. Karen stared at the document. I've never seen that before. Michael nodded. That's because your HOA never asked the county before sending threats to a protected farm. Then he turned to me. Mr. Carter, did this notice cause you any financial loss or disruption? I looked at the stack of papers. My supplier delayed a delivery after seeing the letter. Michael's expression hardened. Karen suddenly leaned forward. Can we discuss this privately? Michael closed the folder. No, ma'am. Then he said the sentence that made her face go completely pale. I'm referring this matter to the County Commission for formal review of possible misuse of government imagery and improper interference with a protected agricultural operation. For the first time since this started, Karen had no response, and the commissioner hadn't even arrived yet. Karen had spent weeks telling everyone the county would shut my farm down. Instead, the county commissioner walked into the meeting carrying a folder with my family's name on the cover. And the first thing he said wasn't directed at me. It was directed at Karen. County Commissioner Robert Ellis entered the room without saying a word. He shook my hand. He nodded politely to Karen. Then he took his seat at the head of the table. Michael Dawson quietly slid every document across the table. The HOA notices, the altered county-style letter, the zoning records, the protected agricultural operations certificate, and finally, the internal HOA meeting note. Commissioner Ellis spent several minutes reading every page. No one interrupted him. Finally, he looked up. Mrs. Holloway, did your association verify any of these claims with the county before sending these notices? Karen hesitated. We believed we had sufficient information. That's not what I asked. The room fell silent. No. The commissioner slowly nodded. Then he opened another folder. Our archives show the Carter family farm has operated continuously on this land since 1958. He placed several historic aerial photographs on the table. Each one showed the same barns, the same grain silos, the same fields, decade after decade. The subdivision was approved 63 years later. Karen stared at the photograph. Commissioner Ellis continued. Every purchaser in Cedar Ridge Estates received disclosure documents stating neighboring agricultural activity would continue. He held up a copy of the disclosure. It specifically mentions tractors. He turned another page. Livestock. Another page. Harvest equipment. Then he looked directly at Karen. So why did your association tell homeowners these normal farming activities violated county standards? Karen searched for an answer. Nothing came. Her attorney quietly cleared his throat. My client may have misunderstood the county's authority. Commissioner Ellis calmly closed the folder. This office doesn't view this as a misunderstanding. He stood and walked toward the conference room window overlooking the countryside. My responsibility is protecting every property owner's rights. He turned back toward the table. Whether they live in a subdivision or on a family farm. He picked up one final document and signed it. Michael smiled. I had no idea what had just been approved. Karen leaned forward. What is that? The commissioner placed the signed paper into my hand. Mr. Carter, I believe you'll want to read this. I looked down at the title. County Order of Agricultural Protection. Karen's face turned completely pale. She finally realized. This meeting wasn't about shutting down my farm. It was about making sure no one ever tried again. Karen thought the signed county order was the end of the story. She was wrong. Because what happened over the next 30 days changed Cedar Ridge forever. Commissioner Ellis handed me the signed order. Mr. Carter, this officially recognizes your farm as a protected agricultural operation under county regulations. I thanked him and slipped the document into my folder. Then he turned toward Karen one last time. Mrs. Holloway, your association will receive written guidance outlining the limits of HOA authority regarding neighboring agricultural properties. Karen nodded quietly. She no longer argued. she simply stared at the table. Within a week, every homeowner in Cedar Ridge Estates received a letter from the county explaining that lawful farming activities, including tractors, livestock, grain storage, seasonal harvesting, and normal farm operations, were protected and could not be regulated by the HOA. The reaction surprised everyone. Many homeowners weren't angry at me. They were angry that they had been told something completely different. At the next HOA meeting, dozens of residents packed the clubhouse. Questions came from every corner of the room. Why were we told the county agreed with these notices? Why weren't we shown the actual regulations? How much HOA money was spent on this? Karen struggled to answer. One board member quietly stood. I warned everyone we should contact the county before sending those letters. Another member nodded. So did I. The room fell silent. Then a motion was made to elect new leadership. The vote wasn't even close. Karen's time as HOA president came to an end that evening. A few days later, the new board visited my farm. Not to complain. To apologize. They admitted the situation had gone much further than it ever should have. We shook hands beside the old wooden fence that had somehow become the center of the entire dispute. As they drove away, I climbed onto my tractor and headed toward the fields. The engine sounded exactly as it always had. The cattle grazed peacefully beneath the afternoon sun. Nothing about the farm had changed. Except now everyone understood something that should have been obvious from the beginning. A neighborhood can grow beside a farm. But it doesn't get to erase the farm that was there first. Sometimes the strongest victory isn't winning an argument. It's making sure the next family never has to fight the same battle again.